almost like a partner in that sense. I think, and that's the only way it can grow to its full potential.
I agree, and that's definitely been the thought process. You know what I mean? Like, all right, well, what if he cut something? That's the only way I think we could actually do it. Would be actually because we're too small to actually just pay someone and that's always the hard part about being small. Like, there's a great part about being small. I think in this whole entire pandemic, it's been amazing because I don't want to say you're too small to fail, but you're small enough to the fact. Exactly. We can go left.
You could pivot
instead of going right, like within 10 minutes. You know what I mean? It's so easy to be able to see something and then react to it and then be successful with it, as opposed to having this massive thing that moves. It's a small boat versus a big boat. You know what I mean?
Differentiate or die, as Michael Thompson said.
Do you know? Is that a reference towards me or no?
Yeah. Because I heard you say it, and I was like, that's so good.
That was full on. Before we opened the store, I read this really amazing article from Michael Thompson, and I was like, God, that's genius. You know what I mean? And that was kind of been the whole way we tried to run the store from day one. When we started, it was not at the very inception of the alternative surfboard kind of movement, but early on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I don't want to compete with these big, massive stores. Let me see how I can do this in a different kind of way and find our way through it. It's good.
It definitely, it works. And I imagine being small, you can be nimble. You don't have a huge overhead. Well, I mean, you do kind of with the glass house, but that's working really nicely right now. So
yeah, that's actually the easier one. Sometimes that's the easier one to kind of make money at, because it's this, supply and demand. There's almost so much glassing to do,
How has it been dealing with all the regulations and with government, and has it been confusing? Have you found it helpful, not helpful, frustrating?
With regards to COVID, or with regards to the glass
COVID, not the glass shop. No, COVID, and a whole other, yeah. No, we could get into that too.
It's been interesting. It hasn't been crazy. It's been pretty easy to deal with, I think. I mean,
nice.
I guess this is the biggest thing too, is so we're in Asbury Park, right? And we're close to New York City, but we're not New York City. Mm-hmm. And even in March and April, when New York City COVID numbers were going crazy, it was still pretty mellow down here. You know what I mean? Yeah. To this day, the amount of close, friends and customers that I know that have dealt, personally had COVID or dealt with, it's been really low.
Yeah.
So it was it was weird to kind of navigate, but it wasn't, I don't think it was that difficult. And Asbury's a small enough town that it was you can kind of trace things a little bit better than other places. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's just, you know, your regulars.
And, yeah. And I feel like the rules were almost loose to a fault though. You know what I mean? Cause I was like, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? You can only do 50% capacity, but I don't know what the capacity of my store is. You know what I mean? But I was if there's 10 people in it at one time, it's pretty small. It's probably too much. You know what I mean? So it kind of just it's been interesting,
It amazes me at how lax it is. Some people think it's restrictive. I'm like, dude, this is nothing. My brother's in London, and it's you can't gather with another person. They have to be within your pod, and his ex-wife, she had an app on her phone that from the government, went into a burrito place, and when she got home, she got a message. Hey, someone who was in there had COVID. You now need to quarantine for 14 days. It was way more. You feel it way more, where I feel I don't know. It's probably different in different parts of the country right now, but I feel here in New York, it's definitely people are definitely not as feeling as restricted by it as I think.
Totally. And that's actually, I think, you don't have to get too far into that, but it's been kind of weird now because everyone's numbers are going crazy.
Yeah.
And everyone's yeah, cool. We made it through it. And I'm no, this is worse than it ever was. Maybe we shouldn't be so loose right now. Maybe things should be, we just went on a road trip for a month. We usually go away in the fall.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be in Chile And of course, didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like you can't. There's no commercial flights going in now. No. So I've had a Sprinter van for years. That was just like my delivery van, and I was like, all right, let's actually do what I said I was going to do 4 years ago when we bought the thing and build it out a bit, and kind of just went across the country.
Nice.
Like Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, like all in the national parks and stuff. But it was insane to be out there and see like how loose things were. You know what I mean? Because they didn't. Yeah. I think, you know, to some extent, because New York was so bad so early, like everyone had a realistic view of like how kind of gnarly this can be, and they never saw any of it. And they're like, oh yeah, mask, like whatever, you know, like it was wild. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, and it's like if people just wear the mask and wash their hands, like, and be a little distant, like that's so easy to do, and I feel like it's not that bad.
No, it could be a lot worse.
Could be a lot worse. You know? I mean, we could be, but yeah, you know, and that's. It must have been. I know it's been pretty wild ride having to deal with all of it as a business owner.
For everyone, you know.
And now with the glass shop, what sort of shenanigans are you having to deal with there? I wasn't going to forget that.
No, the weird part about having a surfboard factory in New Jersey is that it's like a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. Is that the regulations don't exist.
Yeah.
So in California, right? Like, you know, if there's certain parts of California that are really hard to open a shop right now, but if you're in a part that's like kind of like they're reasonable about it. Ventura is probably a really great example. You go to the municipal government and you're like, hey, I'm going to open a surfboard glass shop. And they go, okay, cool. Here's your list of what you need. You know, A through Z, good to go. As long as you check every one of these boxes, you're good. In New Jersey,
they're like,
they're like, cool. Well, what is that actually like? You know, what is the flash point of resin? And like you don't want to show them your MDS sheets because you know you're like maybe we'll keep that. You know, so it was like we kind of just like we did what we thought made sense, and then anytime they had questions, we'd find like a document from somewhere online, like, well, you know, our ventilation fan does 6 air changes an hour, and the regulation for, you know, in Australia is 3, so we're double that. You know what I mean? They'd be like, cool, all right, that works. You know what I mean? But it was like, it's great and it's horrible at the same time. I think at this point we passed everything. Like our first shop wasn't really fully above ground for a long time.
Yeah.
And this new shop we're in is like, you know, the city knows exactly what we're doing. We have proper inspections. Everything's like fully regulated and above ground, and they're cool with it. I think we're grandfathered in now, and unless some crazy legislation changes about what VOCs can, like, you know, be used, or what resin is this or that. In some ways we're better than the West Coast on that, because like it's just a little more under the radar, I guess.
Are you experimenting with any other types of like bioresins or anything like that at all?
I mean, yes and no.
Or like some of those epoxies that are
for any epoxy stuff for a long time we were using the Entropy resin, Super Sap. It's like 0 VOC. It's tree sap based. It's amazing. It's great, but it has its downfalls. You know, from a production perspective, from a cost perspective, first of all, it's like triple the price. From a production perspective, it's 3 or 4 times the time. You know what I mean? Mm. And then from like a longevity perspective, I don't know how much better it is. Like all epoxy yellows over time. You do a clear epoxy board in a year, even if you leave it in your basement, it never sees the sun. Like it has this propensity to kind of yellow, and it does break down in different ways. And so it's hard. You know what I mean? It's like, I wish there was a better, cleaner alternative, but for now, like poly is still, it's what people want. It's what is cost effective to produce. And it's really, to me, like what really does kind of hold up the best.
Well, it's if you make a really good glass job, it'll last for a really long time. I mean, this board behind me, is over 50 years old. And still in great condition, and I've abused that thing. So, I mean, if you just put a really good glass job on it, that makes the board more sustainable and people hold on to it a little longer.
And I think that's kind of what our sustainability is not making throwaway surfboards. We're not doing clear sanded short boards that break in 6 months. You know what I mean? Like most of the stuff is glass, a little bit heavier, and it's because if you're not doing 6 foot airs on it, you know what I mean? Most of the boards are riding like a little more glass is going to last longer, and it's going to, I have boards that have been ridden to death that are 5, 6, 8 years old and still feel like new.
Yeah.
They're great. And honestly, the one thing we do a bunch of, and as long as I can get it and people are willing to pay the couple extra bucks for it, is we do a bunch with varial foam.
That's really, really interesting.
It's expensive, but I ride a lot of it myself. I mean, I have boards that are 5 years old that I've probably ridden more than any other board that I own, and they still feel like brand new surfboards. They will break, but they hold that like pop. They hold that like that kind of tension flex really, really well.
And they're pretty durable, no? Like,
super.
They don't ding as easily. They dent
as easily as anything does.
Yeah.
But they don't break down. They don't have that like.
Do they take on water at all?
Not at all.
That's amazing.
Which is almost hard. Which is horrible for a guy who owns a glass shop because you never have time to fix your own dings. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, they don't take on water at all. I just leave it. It's fine. I rode a board yesterday that had a ding in the tail, and I was like, man, I really need to fix this, but it's fine. It's not going to be a problem.
Have you ever thought about exploring like other business models for surfboards, like subscription services and other things like that? Like, so Paul Surf was kind of trying something along those lines, and I always find it kind of interesting, like trying to think of a different way to do surfboard business, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ideas, right? But like, I don't know.
I feel like with the varial foam, you can make it pretty, glass it a little heavier and make it a good demo board. You get like a whole nice little demo fleet that people just kind of can buy a monthly subscription, just grab whatever's in the rack. How cool would that be?
I feel like I don't know. I like the idea of it. I feel like on paper that stuff always really works, but then I've had demo boards, and I've had like pretty much not all my boards, but a good amount of my personal surfboards. I'm like, they're my demo fleet. And the amount of people that actually, and I won't even charge people like, I kind of want one of these things, but I've never ridden one. I'm like, here, take mine, come in tomorrow. And then you're like, oh yeah, maybe I'll come in. It's so rare that people actually take me up on it that it's like,
really?
It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I always thought it'd be kind of cool. And like, you could do like the Rick Kane quiver and do like a whole North Shore quiver board, so people can kind of do that. You do like kind of the Curran, reverse V. Someone could try out like, I don't know. I always thought like it would be kind of neat to try out like professionals boards too, and like kind of see how they go and have that kind of novel experience.
Yeah. I'd personally into that for sure. It's just
how cool would that be? Like the Rick Kane quiver.
Together. Yeah. I would.
You're not ready for it. You're not ready for it.
Reverse V at like 6 foot backdoor. That'd be amazing.
That would be the dream.
By myself.
Have you, well, I mean, you might be able to do that with some of the wave pool technology coming.
Oh man, maybe.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I'm a bit of a purist in a sense that I think what makes surfing so amazing to me, especially because forever I kind of feel like I have somewhat of a short attention span, is that it's forever changing. So like yesterday was, even this morning too, it was pumping. It was so good, but you had to I like to have to work hard for the money. You know what I mean? Like I like to be like have to paddle till you can't paddle anymore to get that one. And what makes the one so great that you got was that it wasn't perfect, because you're in the tube and the section like throws 10 feet longer than it should have. And then you get the tube of your gear kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, so I think the wave pool is interesting, but I don't think it's for me. I want to, you know what I mean? I want to be in the ocean. I want to be in nature. I want to kind of I like the natural randomness of the ocean.